All right, good morning, guys, and welcome to attend my class. Today, we're going to continue our discussion in chapter 4. Well, basically, in this chapter, I will discuss how can we deal with the data in a table defined in Excel. Well, an Excel table is a list of related pieces of information that is formatted with a title row followed by rows of data. For example, as you can see on my screen, this area is an Excel table. Well, when the data is in the table format, you can organize, sort, filter, and calculate data easily and quickly. Much like a database, which is a concept we will learn right after the midterm exam. Well, in addition to that, we will also learn some basic techniques to analyze the data defined in the table defined in Excel. Well, as I previously said, the table has a header row. So let's see, what is header row? The header row is the first row of table with descriptive titles or labels, like this row 3 in this table. Each row of data is a record and each column is a field. For example, in this table, each single row is a record and each column is a field. This is the field, the second field, all the way to the last field. Name, classification, location, category, and amount. Well, the label in the header row is sometimes referred to as the field name. When you format Excel data as a table, follow these guidelines to optimize your tables for use of Excel comments. First, type descriptive labels in the first row and begin each label with a letter, not a number. Second, assign each header a unique label. Do not repeat any of the descriptive labels. Third, keep the same type of data within each column. Fourth, do not leave blank rows with data. And lastly, keep the table separate from other data on the worksheet. Well, these suggestions for you and some terminologies described above are also very important things in terms of database. I mean, the technology we will learn after the midterm exam. So please keep them in mind. And I will also discuss each of the rule in the later section. All right. So first of all, let's see, how do we create an Excel table? So when data is arranged as a list and conforms to the guidelines just described. A simple format command creates an Excel table. Select the data and click Format as Table button. In the Styles group on the Home tab and open Table Styles Gallery. Choose a style and click OK. So let me show it. First, you need to select the cells to be formatted as a table. And do not forget to include. There's already data here. No. First, select the cells to be formatted as a table. And do not forget to include the header row. And second, click Format as Table. Next, choose a table style. Here as an example, let me choose table style medium 20. Okay, in this dialog box, let's choose this option. My table has headers. And then click OK. Well, now this area has been formatted as a table in Excel. And as you can see, when this area is formatted as an Excel table, the filter is automatically added. For example, for the location filter, we can click this arrow, click it, and choose the location that you want to hidden or displayed. For example, I can choose only Cast Lake data to be displayed and click OK. So now only the data in Cast Lake is displayed, but the other rows are not displayed. The other rows are not deleted. They are only hidden in the background. Well, let's undo this. Okay, as you can notate, when I create the table, as I selected the table style, so a table style is a pre-designed set of format settings with a color scheme, alternating fill for rows and columns, vertical and horizontal borders, and more. You can select table when you create a table from format as table button. But you can also apply different styles at any time. Predefined table styles are classified as light, medium, and dark. Well, you can use these colors based on the workbook theme. You can also remove the style. But if you want to change the style, you can simply you can simply choose any of other styles under this button. Well, when I first defined this table, I chose medium 20. And now I want to change it to, for example, this medium 18. I click it and the style is changed, as you can see. And let's choose the other one. Well, as you can see, it is changed. Okay, as you can see, this table is a revenue by employee location and category table. The last field is amount field. Let's scroll down. Okay, to here. Well, the last column is amount column. Sometimes it's important for us to know the total of a column. For example, in this case, the last column, we need to know the total. So here under the design button, we have a lot of tools for you to analyze the data. Okay, the first way, of course, you can use is definitely to use what we learned in the second class, to use a function to calculate the sum of these cells. Well, but here, since this area has been formatted as a table, you can also use this option to show the total of each column. Okay, when you see, you can see that as I click total rows, select it, the total row is automatically added to the end and displays the total of the number columns. So next, let's see how to use another tool, that is remove duplicates. Well, sometimes in the table, there are some duplicates records. If we find the duplicates records one by one manually, it is a waste of time. Well, why don't we let the computers to remove the duplicate rows for us? So here we can use these two, remove duplicates tool, to remove the duplicated records in this table. Okay, as you can see, currently there are 30 rows in this table. And let's use the remove duplicates tools. Well, before we click OK, we need to select the columns to be analyzed. Here we select all the columns and click OK. Well, this dialog box is promoted, telling you that 1 duplicate values found and removed. 26 unique values remains. So this is remove duplicates true. And another tool for you is a slicer. Well, a slicer in Excel is a tool that opens a floating window that is used as visual filter, allowing you work with smaller pieces of large database. So let's see how to insert a slicer. Well, basically, a slicer has no difference with a filter. The only difference is that a slicer is a visualization tool for you to do the filters. Okay, to insert the filter, you need to click this button, Insert Slicer. Once you click it, a Insert Slicer dialog box is displayed for you to select the categories you want to add as a slicer. For example, I choose location and classification and click OK. So two slicers are displayed here. One for classification and another one for location. Well, by default, all the options are selected. But you can change the slicers. For example, in location slicer, I click Cass Lake. So in this way, only Cass Lake only Cass Lake location data is displayed. And I choose another one, Breezy Point. So in this way, the Breezy Point, only Breezy Point location data is displayed in my table. And further, I can choose representative in classification. So the slicer further narrows down the data that we want. Shows only location, which is Breezy Point, and classification is representative. Well, to delete the slicer, you can click this button, Clear Filter. Okay, this is slicer, a visualization filter to help you to display the filtered data in the table. Okay. Well, by now, I know that you may have a question that is, what is the difference between formatting as a table and just the regular worksheet that you introduced in chapter 1 and chapter 2? Well, I would say that if you format the area as a table, it is dynamic. Well, I just introduced that you can also use the sum function here in this cell to calculate the total value. But it is not flexible. I mean, when you define the formula in this cell, these formulas are fixed. But if you format this area as a table, this is flexible. For example, as you can see, now the total value is 175,359. Well, if I click on a Cass Lake location data to be displayed, this total value also changes according to my selection in this slicer. And also, if I choose only managers, it further narrows down, and the total value here also changes according to my selection. And also, the calculation is easier in the formatted Excel table. For example, here the target increase in cell H4. I want to define a formula which is the increase of the target total revenue. If the total revenue increased by 2%, I would like to calculate this value as the total revenue times 1 plus 2%. Well, this is how we define a formula in the formatted table. Similarly, as I said, a formula always starts with an equal sign. So the first thing is to type in the equal sign. And next, let's select the total value here. Well, as you can see, when total value is selected, it doesn't show the name of that cell. It doesn't show E30 here. Instead, it shows the table name, totals amount. So in Excel, when an area is formatted as table, a table name is defined by default. It's defined as table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4. But you can also change the name of the table here. For example, by default, this table is named as table 1, and I would like to change it as revenue table. Okay, so let's try here. Let's define a formula equals this. So this area, the table name is this. It's replaced by the new name that I just defined, revenue table. Total amounts in amount row times 1 plus G4 and click enter button. You can also copy the formula to H4, H5, H6. Well, next, let's see how do we use conditional formatting. Conditional formatting commands apply formats to the cells only when the cells meet the criteria. For example, you can use conditional formatting to display revenue amounts below a certain level in a bold red font. Conditional formatting is dynamic. The formatting adapts if the data changes. So let's see. How to use conditional formatting? The first thing is to select the cell range. Well, for example, in this case, I want to conditional formatting applied to amount data. So this column is selected, and next I select conditional formatting. Okay, I can see a lot of different criteria, and I select highlight sales rules and choose less than. So in this dialog box, I can define the less than value. I want the values less than 4,000 to be highlighted. So I type 4,000 and click OK. Okay. Oh, well, here by default it is light red fill with dark red text, and I can also change the format here, yellow, green, or something you like, and click OK. So as you can see, the cells that meet this criteria, which is less than 4,000, are automatically highlighted. And as I said, conditional formatting is dynamic. So if I, for example, change the value here from 1,200 to like 5,000 and click enter, as you can see, this cell is dynamically changed to its default font. So this is the very basics of conditional formatting. Let's undo it. And let's see some other highlights of conditional formatting. We can also use the top bottom rules. For example, I can highlight the top 10% or bottom 10 items, bottom 10%, etc., etc. For example, I would like to display the highest 10%. Oh, well, but I should select this area, excluding the total. Click here, shows top 10%. And here I can adjust top 10% to any other values, for example, to 15%, to 20%, etc., etc. Let's display top 20% here and click OK. As you can see, the top 20% cells are highlighted. In conditional formatting, we have some other tools. For example, data bars, color scales, icon sets, etc., etc. So let's see them. So a data bar, it fills color to represent the value in a cell. The higher the value is, the longer the bar will be. For example, I select orange data bar. Well, as you can see, in this area, the larger the value is, the longer the bar is displayed in this cell. The longest one represents the largest value, and vice versa. Well, it is also dynamic. For example, when I change this 17,000 to 1,700 and click OK, and as you can see, the data bar shown here is shortened. Let's undo this. Well, this is data bar. And next, let's see the icon set. Oh, first of all, let me clear the data bar. Let's see the icon set. Well, in icon set, you can display the directions, the shapes, or indicators to different conditions that you defined in the next dialog box. For example, let me show the colorful arrows. I click more rows. So here in this dialog box, you can see the default conditions to each categories. A green one is shown when the data is greater or equal to 67%. An orange circle is shown in the cell when the data is greater than and equal to 33%. And a red circle is shown when the data is less than 33%. Well, we can definitely change the criteria here. For example, I changed 67 to 90% and click OK. Well, so in this case, only top 90% data is displayed with a green. In addition, we can also add the customized rules. I click New Rule under Conditional Formatting. Well, I select Use a formula to determine which cell to format. And here I can type in my customized criteria. For example, greater than 5,000 and click Format to select the desired format. For example, I would like to change it to bold italic. Click OK. Mm. So this area greater than 4,000. Let me see what's the problem with it. Well, I would like to define another criteria. C4 equals outlet to be bold and italic. Okay, now as you can see, when I defined the rule to be C4, I mean the location equals to bounded, as you can see here, C4 equals to bounded, and apply to amount column, and click OK. The condition is automatically applied to this column. Only the location to be bounded. The amount is changed format. Well, this is customized conditional formatting. Well, before we go ahead, let me know if you have any problems. No? All right. Next, let's see how do we sort and filter in Excel. Well, in Excel, sorting is the process of arranging rows of data in an identified order. In this case, for example, the company Paradise Lakes Resort. You can arrange the revenue table by employees classification to compare the results for a particular job title. Or you may want to order the rows from highest to lowest. You can sort data in ascending or descending order. Ascending orders sort the data alphabetically from A to Z or numerically from smallest to largest, and vice versa. In descending sort, data are arranged alphabetically from Z to A or numerically from largest to smallest. So to do the sort, we need to first of all select a cell in the column to be used for sorting. For example, now I want to sort classification from A to Z, which is ascending. So I select a cell in classification and click this, sort and filter. Sort A to Z, which is ascending. When I click it, as you can see, this classification is automatically to sort from A to Z, associate, starting with A, is displayed first. And also, I can sort amount column, for example, from largest to smallest. So now each person's revenue amount is sorted from largest to smallest. And in this way, in this case, we can compare the performance of each sales representative. Well, I just introduced that we can sort data according to one criteria, either by classification or by amounts. But how can we sort the data by multiple columns? An example of data that is often sorted by two columns is a list with cities in one column and the states or province in another column. Such data is sorted by states so that Alabama is before Arizona. And within a particular state, the cities are also sorted alphabetically. So in this example, I want to sort the data according to two columns, both classification and amount. So the first thing is to select a data, to select a cell in the data. To select a cell in the data, click custom sort. So in this way, this dialog box is displayed. In this dialog box, you can choose, you can define the criteria. First of all, we need to select sort by classification from A to Z. And here is how do we add a classification level. We click add level. So the second row is added. So from then by, we choose amount. Amount from largest to smallest. And in this way, well, now I can click OK. So in this way, the data is sorted first of all by classification, and then by amount. Well, this is sort. How do we sort the data? We can also use the filter, which is another important tool provided by Excel. You can usually work more efficiently when you filter large amounts of data to show the rows of importance to your task. For example, you can filter data to show the records of a particular year, a particular month, or a particular individual person, or even similar grouping. When you filter the data, information that does not meet the requirement is temporarily hidden. A filter specifies which data are shown and which are hidden. Well, in list type data or Excel table, the filter button displays or hides the auto filter arrow for each label in the header row. When you click auto filter, we can select any cell in the table and click filter. The auto filter is displayed in the title of each column. So this is auto filter. I mean, these arrows are auto filter. And here you can do the filter of your table. For example, for categories, I want only the associates data to be displayed. So I select only associate and click OK. So this row, the data in this row is filtered. We can also do the self-defined filters here in text filter. For example, for classification, I can do the begins with, and I define the classification criteria here begins with A, or begins with M, and I click OK. Well, in this way, the record begins with A, I mean associates in this case, are displayed. Also, the rows with managers that begins with M are displayed. Let's undo this. So this is customized filter. And also you can use advanced filter. Advanced filter here. This is how can we use the advanced filter. Well, in advanced filter tab, in this area, we can define the criteria to be displayed, and the selected results are copied to this results area. Okay, let's see. How do we use the advanced filter? First, we need to define the criteria in this area. For example, I click cell H6 and type ASSOC and a wildcard. It means the classification begins with ASSOC, and also the amount greater than 1,500. Okay. Next, let's run the advanced filter. Let's find advanced button under formula tab, data tab, sort and filters group. Click advanced. Select copy to another location. For the list range, we need from A4 to cell E31 to be the list range. And for criteria range, we need to manually select G5 to K6. Well, this is the criteria. And for copy to, we want the results to be copied to this area. And click OK. Once you click OK, you see the results that meet these criteria under criteria area are selected and copied to the results area. So this is advanced filter. Well, next, let's see how do we use the subtotals to define the groups in Excel. Well, let's go back to this revenue table. As you can see, there are different classifications, different locations, and different categories. But now I want to know the subtotal for each different locations. For example, I want to know the subtotal for only the location of about debt, as well as the subtotal for only the location of Breezy Point. How can we do that? We can do that conveniently in Excel by using the subtotal, which is shown here. It is a function in Excel to show the subtotal. Well, a subtotal is a summary row for data that is grouped. And a group is a set of data that has the same entry in one or more columns. You can see groups by location with a subtotal in the amount column. Well, an outline is a summary that groups records so that individual groups can be displayed or hidden from view. So let's see, how do we use the subtotal? First of all, let's select a cell in the data range and click subtotal. Well, for at each change in, we can change it to locations because I want to know the subtotal at each change in locations, in different locations. Use function sum. That is the sum of the revenue amount. And add and add subtotal to amount column. And click OK. Well, as you can see, once you click OK, this table is categorized according to each different locations. So in this way, you can know the subtotal of each different locations. And here, you can see 3 levels of the groups. At the lowest level, which is level 3, is like this. It displays every single record in your table. But if we click level 2, the detailed single records are hidden and displays only the subtotal of each different locations. And when you go to higher level, level 1, you can only see the grand total values. So this is how we use subtotal. The subtotal with 3 outlines. Well, next, let's see, how do we import the outside data? For example, in this case, this tab is a null tab. It's blank. And I want to import the data from an outside source, which is a text file. So how can we do that? We can find get external data group under data tab and click from text. Well, here on my desktop, I have a predefined data source. Click it and click import. Okay, all the way to the last step until finish button is available, and you can go ahead and click finish. Well, this is in this dialog box. You do not have to do any changes. But here, what it means is which start from which cell you want the data to be imported. Well, by default, we select A4. So it means the copied external data is going to start at cell A4 and click OK. So now the data from external source has been imported. In addition to text files, you can also import data from a web, an Access database, or from other sources. There are a lot of options for you. Well, next, let's see. How do we use flash fill? Flash fill as you can see, when we have imported the data from external source, the imported data often needs to be cleaned because it may not be in the correct sort order. It may have missing or incorrect data, and so on. So flash fill is a feature that recognizes the pattern in the first cell and suggested data for the remaining rows in the column. It can be used to quickly complete new, missing, or incorrect data. For example, Let's imagine that imported data lists first and last name in a single column, but you want first and last names in separate columns. You can type the first person's name in an empty column next to the original column. As you start to type a second name below the first name, Flash Fill previews and completed the columns. And then you can just enter to complete the columns. So now let's do another example. For example, in this table, I want to list the email address of each person. For the first person, I would like to assign the email address as c dot c dot Bauman at abc.com. Okay, for the second person, you may tell that the email address should be c.may, M-I-E, at abc.com. But now I want to use Flash Fill to recognize this pattern and automatically fill the rest of each record for me. So I select this range and click Flash Fill. This feature automatically recognizes the pattern in the first cell and fills the rest of the records automatically for us. So this is Flash Fill feature in Excel. Well, lastly, let's see. How can we use a pivot table in Excel? Well, a pivot table is a cross-tabulation report based on list type data. It is a separate worksheet in which you can sort, filter, and calculate large amounts of data. A pivot table is an analysis tool, which is an important part of business intelligence. Well, basically, a pivot table is a highly aggregated table that displays the result of the data showing in a separate worksheet. Okay, let's see. How do we create a pivot table of this table? And remember, the pivot table is a highly aggregated data table. So the first thing is to click any cell in this formatted table and find summaries with pivot table. Click it. Okay. choose the data that you want to analyze. It's right within this table. And we want the pivot table to be copied to a new worksheet. So select this and click OK. So now you can see a pen on the right side. A pivot table is created on new sheets in the workbook. And pivot table fields pen opens at the right side. From this pen, you can add or remove fields from the report and drag the field name into different areas in the pen to reset how the data are organized. There are filter, columns, rows, and values area in the pen. Each item from a field in the rows area appears its own row in the pivot table. Each item in the field in the columns area displays a column. Column and rows are usually the categories of data, not the actual value. Fields in the values area are the ones that are summed, averaged, counted, or otherwise used in other calculations. Filter are fields placed as separate buttons above the pivot table, which acts like the auto filter arrow. So we can drag the columns to each area. For example, I drag the categories to columns, locations as rows, and the values in amount column as the values, and I would like to sum the amount value and choose classification as the filter. So now, as I drag each column to the corresponding areas here, you can see the pivot table report is automatically generated. And also, in pivot table, we can use a slicer as the filter. For example, classification. I can use the slicer as a filter here. Or I can also use the filter of classification here. Associate, managers, representatives. Well, in addition to the slicer, we can also use the chart. For example, in this pivot table, I can use the pivot chart. It recommends the clustered column chart for us. Okay, we can use that. This is the summary. This is the chart summary of the data showing in this pivot table. It's dynamic as we change the classification. As you can see, the chart also changes. So this is the chart used, how the chart is used in the pivot table. Well, this is the end of this class. In this class, we learned how do we analyze data in a table, how we use filters, how to use subtotals, how to import the external data from external source. And at last, I showed how to use flash fill and the creation of pivot chart from a table that contains data like this. So before you leave, please let me know if you have any questions.